Hello and welcome back to Maff UK. Today we're going to be looking at and reviewing the ZOOM H1n voice recorder. And in my opinion, this is a wonderful piece of equipment. Now before I continue, I have worked my way around this little device now and I am pretty au fait with it. However, I don't confess to be an expert. There are people that use devices like this for recording music and everyday use for what they do. I use this thing to try and combat the wind and all the other problems that I've been having whilst I've been fishing or hammocking or doing any sort of filming or recording whatsoever. Now, one of the advantages of using a separate recording device away from the camera is that you can be estranged from the camera. You can take yourself away, you can move out away from the camera at range and still be able to talk to the camera. I've got an example of that, and what I'll do is I will insert that segment here. So there you go, 30 meters from the camera and you can hear me perfectly fine. No issues when you have this set up and you have this particular mic. You can even hear my dog barking quite clear. But from the camera, from the sound from the camera, you wouldn't hear anything at all. It's far too far away for that camera to pick up this voice. Toodle, kitty dog. Notice the clap? I'll explain all about that in a minute. If I was just to have the camera itself, there is no way you would have been able to hear my voice. Absolutely no way whatsoever. And it's only by using a device like this that you can do that. Now, also, there is something else to note as well. You don't need to rush out and go and buy something like that. It's not cheap, but it's not mad money. If you're watching this on a mobile phone, you already have a voice recorder. If there isn't one on your mobile phone, it's very easy to get an app and download them. There is plenty of free voice recording apps available for you to use. Also, coupled with a lavalier mic, and if you don't know what a lavalier mic is, I will show you later, so don't worry about it, you'll pick that up later. Coupled with a lavalier mic, your mobile phone is a perfectly acceptable way of recording your voice during filming. You do, however, have to learn how to splice that information onto your computer. So when you come to do your editing, you have to learn how to do it. Now, here's a top tip that most of you probably, well, some of you may know, but a lot of you don't. You know the clapperboards that you see on all movies and stuff like that? Why do they use a clapperboard? It's the pitch of the sound. That is the peak that they're looking for. When they do the editing, they match that sound, that clap up with the movie itself. So visual clap, sound clap, line it up from the editing process, and from that clap you can then edit your film and you will be in sync. So if you never knew what a clapperboard was actually for, there you go, that's your first, there's a heads up. So a clapperboard will help you sync your voice to your footage. And as you've just seen me do there 3 or 4 times now, that will do exactly the same thing. Okay, what we need to do now is backtrack a little bit, not jump forward too much. Let's start with the basics, let's look at the parts, let's look at the names, and then from there we can move forward and then show you a little bit more in depth later. So here we go, moving along the bottom of our device. You've got audio, low cut limiter and auto levels. I'm not going to harp on too much about these things, but basically your audio levels are adjusted by pressing the button. As you can see there, I was on 48/24-bit. You can also have MP3. Don't recommend you use MP3 anymore. Let's get back to 48/24-bit. There we go, that's my preferred one. Good quality sound, no problem whatsoever. My low cut is on at 80 Hz. Because I've been outside, there's a possibility of wind interference, so the 80 Hz will block out most of that from the low level. It won't interfere with your voice. If you go higher than that, if you start clipping up in the hertzes, here we go, you can start affect your voice, and you can turn it off altogether. So we turn it on outside and then we're going to have an 80. Your limiter, this really stops you from clipping out really. If you turn the limiter on, basically it stops you from going beyond the range of the mic and then having this distorted voice. So if you're going to be outside, put the limiter on. And auto level, right, okay, you see at the top here, this is your gain. You can adjust the level of your recording using this button here. But if you're out and about and you have absolutely no idea whether it's going to be loud, whether it's going to be quiet, and you need the mic to make that decision for you, then you can press the auto level and that will adjust the noise for you. All your levels will be adjusted by the mic itself and not by you. And then we gotta turn that off. And these are pretty straightforward. You've seen all these pictures before. That's start record, stop record. This is your stop. This is you know, how you scroll through the actual recordings that you've got. And right at the bottom, you can't see, I'll move that into shot, is your speaker. So if you haven't got any headphones, you can still get a playback using that device. On the top you will see a crossover stereo recorder and its protective frame. That's the front of the H1. Let's move on to the sides. To be perfectly fair, a degree in rocket science isn't required when working out what these buttons or parts of the mic mean. However, I will explain that the volume control is only on the playback function. It controls the playback function only. Here we go then, we are now looking at the right hand side of the device, starting from the left, moving to the right. We will come across our USB power supply. You can either connect this directly to your computer and you can run the device from your computer. You can connect a power pack to this and it will run all day from the power pack. So it's a multi-use thing. Again, it is the main port in and out of this device. Moving on to the settings and hold buttons, you can see the button there is in the middle of a space and that button slides up and down. Now when you turn this device on by pushing it or sliding it down, when you let go of the button it will return to that center position that it's at now. When you turn the device off, you push it down again and it will return to the position that it's in now. Should you wish to lock the features to ensure that it doesn't change in your pocket or go off or turn on in your pocket, then you slide the button fully forward and it holds it, puts it into the lock position. That's what that does. Moving on to the next button, which is the bin button. Using the buttons on the front of the device, you can scroll through your pre-recorded files and delete them using that button there. Moving up to the next one is our micro SD device. This will take up to 32 gigabytes at this moment in time. Don't try and put a bigger card in, it'll only read up to 32 gigs. So that's plenty of storage for this device, absolutely plenty. Finally, we come to our line in, and again, pretty self-explanatory. The picture paints 1,000 words. This is your mic in port, and that completes the right hand side of this device. Okay, very much nothing going on except the battery compartment itself. On the original H1, this is the H1n, there used to be buttons on the back, and the only reason I'm showing you this is purely because there are no buttons on the back anymore and it's just battery compartment. One thing I really do not like about this is the fact that the thread to hold it onto the mounts is only made of plastic, and it's very easy to damage that thread. It's one of the things I really wish they hadn't done. I just feel conscious all the time, every time I'm threading that in, that I'm going to cross thread it and I'm going to ruin my mic because of a plastic thread, and I don't like that. That is one thing I really don't like about it. I suppose we should talk about the microphones now. What you're looking at here is a classic example of a lavalier mic. This one in particular has a pop filter over it. A pop filter is a small filter that prevents sounds from coming through and distorting onto the recording. If we look at these now, you'll see the very top lavalier mic has no protection on it whatsoever. The second one down has a pop filter on, and the third one has a micro cat or a micro muffler, whichever you want to call it. All of these are available in the UK and in foreign countries too. They are very expensive in the UK, so I do suggest you have a look about to try and find some from other places. What you can also do with this type of mic is split them. So if you're doing an interview, you can use this device and it will enable you to carry an interview in a windy environment, etc, etc, and you can record from two mics. Now, as I said previously, you can use this with a power pack, and it makes this device absolutely fantastic, because what this device is really good at is recording sounds, background noises, special effects. It's perfect for it. And the little stand it's on now, you can use it as a handle and hold it. And I do recommend, however, though, if you're going to use it with a power pack and you're going to use it outside for any period of time, you will need a large muffler over the top of it, because it will distort and you will have hand noises come through as well, so be mindful of that. Here's an example of a large muffler or dead cat for this particular mic. It's excellent, it works a treat, and I paid a fraction for it that you would pay in the UK. I think it's 20 plus in the UK for this particular filter. Not where I got it from, it isn't. So again, look at the stand there. That stand closes up and you can hold it in your hand like a microphone stand. Here you see it actually mounted on my desk, so I can use it when I'm doing videoing or doing some voiceovers or anything. And that is just running by the battery alone. Yep, it's nothing hard and fast, very basic setup, no wires. But if you want to connect it to your PC, here you go. Wire down into the PC, direct recording onto your video. Fantastic. Now that we've had a look at the ins and outs of the device itself, I'll just show you a couple of examples of me using this for real. One was a fishing video that I did and everything was okay. The sync was just slightly out. And the other one was when I was in the Lake District having to walk up to Hard Knot Fort, and the wind was absolutely terrible. And I was still learning, I'm still learning how to use this thing anyway, but I got the settings wrong, and I didn't have the limiter on, so the sound was distorting. It was up too high, so the gain was too high and no limiter, and it distorted all the sound. But compared to when I turn the mic off and try and use the camera, the difference is phenomenal. So you just have a watch at these two clips now, and when we've watched them, we'll do the final close to this video.
It started raining, everything got wet, I got wet, my gear got wet, and I lost my fish. So there was an awful lot of effort went in for nothing. But that's fishing for you. Where am I at this moment in time? I've got 3 bottom baits on. Here we go. Okay, cast. All that remains now is to make sure that my reels and my alarms are set. People can get very, very particular how this is done, making sure all the spools are back or all the spools forwards, but I'll just quickly show you how I do it. This plateau, this flat piece of ground here, was also part of the fort. I'm actually stood on what was a tower of sorts. It clearly was, it's clearly some sort of structure, but it would also be a very good place to address the troops, as long as it wasn't windy like it is right now. The fort itself is just there, look. We're gonna go down and have a look, but my God, this wind is awful. Yeah, I'm glad I moved.
So there you go. I've pretty much reached my limit of knowledge when it comes to this device. There are other things I know it can do, like overdub music tracks. So if you was playing some music, you could record that, and on the same track record over it again with more music, so you can double up on your tracks and create music yourself just using this device on its own. I do know you can do that with this, but that's not something that I would probably ever do. It's not within my scope of work that I would ever use it for. There are some likes and dislikes about this which I will cover before I finish, but again, I'm not really doing it justice by using it in the environment that I've used it. Every time I've got this thing out of the bag or the box, it's always harsh, windy and not very nice weather at all, and I'm really putting it to test. If I was to sit here creating music, playing the guitar or violin or something, and then showing you its full potential, well, that would be different. And there are other people on YouTube that do that. I can't do that because that's not what I'm doing. I'm showing a practical use of this device, how I've used it in the past, and how I got over some of those problems that you get when you're out filming anyhow. From a very low-key, low knowledge level. It has to be the way it has to be. Dislikes and likes. Right, okay, what do I dislike about this device? Well, as I previously mentioned, the plastic screw thread on the bottom to connect it to any mounts or stands or anything is just really a poor idea, and it's, of all the places to save money, that wasn't it. And that's a real shame, that, because in the back of my mind I'm conscious all the time that I'm going to break it. Apart from that, there probably are some other limitations that I'm not aware of this device, but it fully works for my needs at this moment in time. What do I like about it? Well, pretty much everything I can throw at you. I do like the fact that it's small, lightweight, compact. I do like the fact that you can get 11 hours use out of those two little AAA batteries. I like the fact that someone like me, very limited knowledge when it comes to recording, can actually use it after a short spell of practicing and play with it. So it's user friendly. Yeah, there's lots of pluses on this that I like, and I think the money that I paid for it, I think it's worth it. Thank you very much for joining me. It has been more of a practical review than anything else. The only reason I did this review was purely and simply because the weather was bad today. I couldn't work out in the garden or do all the work that I was planning to do, so it was an indoor affair. I knew I had this review to pick up at some point, so I did it now. Thank you very much for joining me again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.